The sleek warships of the hegemony slip into the solar system like predators scenting blood. Admiral Zexthal, his scaled skin reflecting the glow of holographic displays, dismisses the lone analyst who suggests the unusual electromagnetic signatures around Earth might indicate hidden defenses. 17 worlds have fallen before us. This will be no different, he hisses, mandibles clicking in anticipation. On his command bridge, aliens wager valuable resources on how quickly Earth will surrender. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Commander Sophia Chen receives the alert she's been preparing for since discovering the alien probe 3 years ago. As emergency klaxons blare through underwater command Fortress Alpha, she exchanges a knowing glance with her Russian and Nigerian counterparts. They took the bait, she says quietly, activating the quantum-encrypted global defense network. Outside her reinforced viewport, massive hatches on the ocean floor begin to open, releasing weapons platforms disguised as research stations. Across Earth, civilians remain oblivious as the planet's hidden defenses silently power up. The hegemony ships advance, weapons charging, unaware they're flying straight into humanity's carefully orchestrated trap. Status report on the primitive defenses, Admiral Zexthal demands, six-fingered hand tapping impatiently on his command console. As expected, Exalted One, replies his tactical officer. Their orbital constructions are minimal, primitive satellites, and a single habitat they call a space station. Weapons capability, negligible. Their planetary communications show signs of alarm, but no unified response. Zexthal's lipless mouth forms what passes for a smile in his species. Commence the standard intimidation display. Let them witness their impending doom before we begin resource extraction. The hegemony flagship, a massive construct of gleaming alloys that dwarf even the largest human vessels, powers its primary weapons array. Energy builds to levels that would instantly vaporize Earth's most hardened military installations, or so the aliens believe. 300 meters beneath the Himalayan mountains, General Vikram Singh stands before the assembled Joint Chiefs of Earth Defense. Representatives from every major military power crowd the recently completed command center, a facility whose existence is known to fewer than 200 humans. Ladies and gentlemen, Singh announces, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. Operation Glasshouse is now active. For 50 years, we've maintained the illusion of division while secretly preparing for this day. The Roswell incident wasn't our first contact. It was our warning. On screens surrounding the command center, classified footage plays. The recovery of an alien scout ship in 1947, the systematic reverse engineering of its technology, and the discovery of the hegemony's planned expansion route through the galaxy. Our apparent technological limitations have been our greatest deception. Singh continues. The space programs, the satellite launches, the International Space Station, all carefully calibrated to appear less advanced than they actually are. Our real defense capabilities have remained hidden, as specified in the Cairo Accords of 1954. In lunar orbit, what the hegemony sensors identify as a communication satellite suddenly purges its outer shell. The innocuous-looking device reveals its true nature. An advanced energy deflector designed specifically to counter hegemony weapons technology. Dozens of similar satellites simultaneously shed their disguises. Admiral Zexthal's first indication that something is wrong comes when his flagship's massive energy discharge, enough to level New York City, dissipates harmlessly against an invisible barrier. Warning alarms blare across his command deck. The sensor officer's voice rises in panic. Defensive systems detected. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Impossible. Zexthal snarls. They're a pre-FTL civilization. They shouldn't have. His words cut off as communication screens across his fleet activate simultaneously. On each screen appears the same image, a human female in a military uniform bearing insignia from multiple Earth nations. This is Admiral Elaine Winters of the United Earth Defense Force, she announces, her expression calm but resolute. "Your vessels have entered protected space. We've been monitoring your expansion for decades. We know what you did to the Centauri and Proxima systems. Earth will not fall so easily." As the message concludes, the true extent of humanity's deception is revealed. What appeared to be normal commercial shipping lanes around Earth suddenly shimmer as advanced holographic camouflage deactivates, revealing Earth's actual combat fleet. Sleek, predatory vessels with weapons already locked on the invaders. The battle for Earth's future was about to begin. But unlike the 17 worlds before it, humanity wouldn't be fighting for survival. They would be fighting for dominance. Primitive species detected. Commencing standard subjugation protocol, announces the Hegemony Tactical Officer as their flagship exits FTL near Mars. His smug confidence evaporates seconds later when proximity alarms scream across every console. The Martian moons Phobos and Deimos suddenly shed their rocky exteriors, revealing massive battle stations bristling with railguns and plasma launchers. "What deception is this?" screams Admiral Zexthal as the first volley tears through his vanguard ships. Before he can issue retreat orders, Earth's asteroid belt erupts with activity. Mining operations transforming into military platforms, their fusion drives igniting like newborn stars as they accelerate toward the invaders. Aboard Phobos Command, Colonel Diane Rodriguez watches the Hegemony fleet scatter in disarray. "Execute maneuver Thermopylae," she orders, her voice cool despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. The twin battle stations, officially designated as research outposts in all public records, begin synchronized firing patterns, creating a deadly crossfire that traps 3 Hegemony cruisers. "Ma'am, we're receiving broadcasts from the alien vessels," reports her communications officer, a South Korean lieutenant whose fingers fly across holographic controls. They're requesting terms of surrender." "Denied." Rodriguez responds. "Protocol demands we demonstrate our full capabilities. No survivors means no accurate intelligence for their main fleet." Across the command center, military officers from 30 nations work in perfect unison, the result of decades of secret joint training exercises conducted under the guise of international scientific cooperation. The Mars Defense Initiative, publicly presented as a civilian colonization project, has been humanity's most heavily fortified military installation since 2041. In the vacuum of space, kinetic impactors, simple tungsten rods accelerated to relativistic speeds, rip through Hegemony vessels. The aliens' advanced shields, designed to counter energy weapons, prove ineffective against humanity's deliberately primitive projectile technology. "We don't understand." The Hegemony commander's transmission crackles across emergency channels. "Your species shows no evidence of unified planetary government. Your public communications display constant conflict and division." Captain Miguel Sanchez, commanding the ISS Deception from Earth orbit, patches into the alien communication frequency. "You should have looked closer at our history books," he broadcasts to the invaders. "Humans have been perfecting the art of war for millennia." Sanchez nods to his weapons officer. "Reveal our true capabilities." Throughout the solar system, what appeared to be civilian transport vessels, research stations, and commercial satellites suddenly transform. Cargo bays open to reveal missile arrays. Telescopes reconfigure into targeting systems. Solar panels fold away to expose energy weapons based on technology reverse-engineered from the Roswell crash. The most shocking revelation comes from Earth's orbit. The International Space Station, long presented to the public as a scientific platform, unfolds like a deadly flower. Hidden compartments open to reveal weapon systems that had been disguised as life support modules and communication arrays. This station was designed for combat from day one. Sanchez explains to his multinational crew. Every module, every spacewalk, every repair, all part of the deception. On Earth, civilian news networks continue reporting normal daily events, completely unaware of the battle raging beyond the atmosphere. The secret pact among world governments has held firm. No panic, No public knowledge until absolutely necessary. Admiral Zexthal watches in horror as his fleet disintegrates. How? He demands of his intelligence officer. How could they hide this level of military capability? The humans, the officer responds, voice trembling. They've been acting. Their entire planetary communications network is filled with fabricated conflicts, deliberate technological failures, and staged political divisions, all to mask their true unified state. As the Admiral processes this information, Earth's actual combat fleet, sleek predatory vessels whose stealth systems had made them appear as nothing more than cargo haulers until this moment, decloaks in perfect formation. The hegemony ships, caught in a perfectly executed three-dimensional crossfire, begin to explode like supernovas against the backdrop of Mars' rusty surface. The nightmare had only just begun. Their formation makes no tactical sense. Snarls Sub-Commander Vexinar, tentacles writhing in frustration as he watches the holographic battle display. Human vessels split into what appear to be chaotic, disorganized groups, violating every principle of space combat strategy in the hegemony's thousand-year military doctrine. Yet, somehow each seemingly random movement places Earth ships at perfect firing positions. Our predictive algorithms are failing. A tactical officer reports, genuine fear in his multifaceted eyes. In the lead Earth vessel ISS Normandy, Lieutenant Commander Aisha Okafor smiles grimly as she inputs commands. Implementing Kasparov Gambit, she announces. Her bridge crew, a mix of nationalities that would have been unthinkable allies just decades ago, respond with practiced precision. Kasparov Gambit deploying, confirms her XO, a Russian officer named Petrov. Sacrificing Bishop Group to expose their queen. Earth vessels suddenly accelerate in patterns based on ancient chess strategies, completely confounding the aliens' battle computers. Two smaller human ships deliberately expose themselves to enemy fire, a move that makes no sense until the hegemony vessels pursue, breaking formation and creating a vulnerability that 5 hidden Earth cruisers immediately exploit. They're using pre-calculated patterns based on a primitive strategy game. The hegemony tactical officer realizes too late. Our algorithms expected logical responses to threats, not deliberate sacrifices. The human vessels employ bewildering tactics drawn from Earth's vast military history. Mongol horseback archery translated into space combat, Napoleon's artillery strategies applied to missile barrages, ancient Roman testudo formations adapted for shield harmonics. The humans aren't following any consistent doctrine, reports the increasingly panicked hegemony analyst. They're using warfare strategies from their entire history simultaneously. Our computers can't predict which approach they'll use next. Meanwhile, in a heavily guarded facility beneath the New Mexico desert, Dr. Hiroshi Yamamoto activates the final phase of Project Looking Glass. The shield frequencies we extracted from the crashed hegemony scout ship at Roswell are confirmed, he reports to United Earth Defense Command. Transmitting exploitation parameters now. Throughout the solar system, human weapons suddenly penetrate alien shields as if they weren't there. What the hegemony doesn't realize is that the Roswell crash wasn't an accident. It was a successful capture operation conducted by humans who had detected the alien scouts decades earlier than the hegemony believed possible. They've been studying us for 78 years, whispers the hegemony science officer in horror. Every weakness, every technological vulnerability. They've had decades to prepare countermeasures. The human counterattack accelerates. Earth vessels employ what they call swarming tactics, dozens of small fighters moving in coordinated patterns reminiscent of Terran insects, overwhelming the hegemony point defense systems designed to counter large, predictable threats. In his detention cell aboard the lunar base, the captured hegemony captain Zixcora watches in shock as humans display unified military command through a system they call NATO Plus. An alliance his reconnaissance had reported as separate competing powers. How is this possible? He demands of his human interrogator, a calm woman whose uniform bears insignia from multiple nations. Our deep analysis of your information networks showed constant conflict between your power blocks. NATO, Brightees, the Eastern Alliance, all at odds. Impossible, he whispers as the truth dawns. You wanted us to think you were divided. The human interrogator merely smiles. We've had practice pretending to hate each other. Makes for excellent deception against outside threats. On her display, she shows him live footage of the battle. Earth ships from supposedly rival nations, moving in perfect coordination, employing tactics that seem to shift unpredictably between ancient and modern warfare doctrines. Our greatest weapon isn't our technology, she explains, watching his alien features contort in confusion. It's our adaptability. Every war we fought against ourselves taught us something new. While your species perfected a single combat doctrine over thousands of years, we developed hundreds and learned to switch between them at will. As if to illustrate her point, the display shows human vessels abruptly changing formation, from what the hegemony had just adapted to counter into something completely different. The aliens' response comes too slowly, their strategic flexibility hampered by millennia of doctrinal consistency. The most dangerous thing about humans, the interrogator concludes as Zix Cora watches his fleet's destruction, is that we've never agreed on the right way to fight. So we learned them all. Retreat. Full emergency translation to hyperspace. Admiral Zexthal's command borders on panic as another hegemony dreadnought detonates, the explosion momentarily outshining Mars itself. But what truly terrifies the veteran conqueror isn't just Earth's unexpected technological prowess. It's what he's witnessing on the boarding footage. Human soldiers, vastly physically weaker than his species, charge into combat against armored hegemony marines with a ferocity that defies all biological logic. The Admiral's six-fingered hand trembles slightly as he reviews the tactical feeds. His species has evolved as apex predators, with natural armor and strength far exceeding humans. Yet the footage shows his elite warriors breaking formation, some even discarding weapons as they retreat from the advancing humans. Exalted One, his psychological warfare specialist interjects. There is something disturbing about their combat behavior. They are displaying what our xenobiologists would classify as predatory joy. Observe their facial expressions. In the vacuum breach of hegemony cruiser Inevitable Conquest, Master Sergeant Jana Novik leads her vacuum-suited soldiers through the alien vessel. Remember, Team Bravo. Project Maximum Aggression. She orders over comms. Psychological division confirms these aliens interpret human smiling as a threat display. As they encounter alien defenders, her entire squad bares their teeth in what Earth scientists had determined would trigger instinctive terror in the hegemony species. The effect is immediate and devastating. The towering aliens fall back in disarray, some dropping weapons. Their natural instincts, honed on a homeworld where bared teeth signaled imminent death, override their military training. The humans laugh as they kill. The panicked report spreads through hegemony communication channels. Their facial muscles contort in pleasure during combat. They're pursuing us even when tactical withdrawal would be more efficient. What the aliens don't understand is that human military strategists had spent years studying hegemony psychology after capturing their scout ships. The human boarding teams are deliberately exploiting xenopsychological vulnerabilities, using expressions, sounds, and mannerisms that trigger primal fear responses in the alien physiology. As the last hegemony vessels flee the solar system, Earth Command implements Operation Whisper campaign. They deliberately allow one damaged alien scout ship to escape, but not before uploading specific video feeds to its databanks. Psychological warfare package complete, reports Dr. Amina Nwosu, head of the Xenopsychology Division. We've included footage of historical warfare documentaries, current training exercises, and selected scenes from horror movies that align with hegemony neurological fear patterns. Admiral Helena Kagawa nods in approval. And the special editions. Dr. Nwosu allows herself a small smile. The Halloween footage, children's dress-up parties, and competitive sports celebrations are included. Their psychological profile suggests they'll completely misinterpret these as evidence that humans ritualize combat and celebrate violence from childhood. The Hegemony scout ship limps home, carrying its toxic informational payload. When its visual data is analyzed, panic spreads through the Hegemony High Command. The carefully selected footage, showing everything from historical battle reenactments to harmless Halloween celebrations, creates a horrifying impression. Humans are a species obsessed with combat, who train their young for war through ritualized violence, and who smile with pleasure when confronting enemies. These beings develop combat simulations for entertainment, reports the Hegemony cultural analyst to the Supreme Council. They expose their offspring to images of warfare from earliest development stages. Their horror entertainment involves scenarios worse than any actual combat. They appear to be neurologically wired to enjoy confrontation. For the first time in their 1,000-year expansion, the concept of fear spreads through Hegemony ranks like a virus. The strategic reports are clear. This isn't merely a technologically capable species, it's a civilization of deathworlders who smile before they kill. As the scout ship's data circulates through Hegemony Command, a more disturbing realization emerges. One senior commander voices what many are thinking. They weren't fighting at full capacity. They were playing with us, testing their capabilities against ours. The nightmare of Earth's unexpected resistance has only begun to unfold. The United Earth Defense Council chamber falls silent after Admiral Helena Kagawa's unprecedented proposal. The holographic star map highlighting Hegemony territory glows ominously before them, numerous worlds pulsing with alien activity as the Hegemony's main fleet begins mobilizing. "We don't wait for them to return with a larger force," she says, her voice steady despite the audacity of her plan. "We take the fight to them. Now." "That's insane," protests the Chinese representative. Ambassador Liu, "We barely repelled their scout force." General Mamadou Diallo of the African Union rises, his tall frame imposing. "What's insane is doing what every other species has done, waiting passively for the Hegemony to return with overwhelming force. They expect that. They've never faced a counterattack." The room erupts in heated debate until Secretary General Vargas slams his palm on the table. "Enough. We've spent 50 years preparing for this moment." Admiral Kagawa's proposal aligns with Contingency Protocol Omega. The vote will proceed. The chamber's lighting dims as each representative inputs their decision. The holographic tally rises, 27 in favor, 5 against. Operation Preemptive Thunder is approved, Vargas announces grimly. "May God help us all." 72 hours later, humanity's first deep space attack fleet, assembled from ships that had been disguised as science vessels and mining platforms, makes its FTL jump. The technology, reverse-engineered from captured Hegemony craft and improved upon by Earth scientists, performs flawlessly. Captain Leah Goldstein feels her stomach lurch as the ISS preemptive strike translates into normal space near Hegemony forward-base Dominion. Around her, 24 Earth vessels emerge from hyperspace in perfect formation, a maneuver the Hegemony technical data suggested was impossible for novice FTL users. "Status report," she demands, regaining composure. "Captain, they're evacuating." Her tactical officer reports in disbelief. On the main view screen, thousands of Hegemony transport ships stream away from the orbital fortress. Their sensors detect millions of civilian life forms fleeing in panic. A communications specialist looks up from his console, stunned. Intercepted transmissions suggest they think we've been hiding an interstellar empire for centuries. They believe this is just our first wave. Goldstein allows herself a small smile. Operation Whisper campaign had worked better than anyone anticipated. The psychological warfare had convinced the Hegemony that Earth was far more powerful than it actually was. "All ships, implement attack pattern Churchill," she orders. "Remember your history, people. The best bluff is the one your opponent never calls. The Earth fleet divides into precisely choreographed attack groups, each targeting a separate hegemony installation. When the aliens finally mount a defense, they discover too late the humans have weaponized their own reputation for unpredictability. Each Earth attack group employs completely different tactics, rendering hegemony response protocols useless. Echo Group, using Patton's Third Army maneuvers, reports the operations officer. Bravo Group implementing Napoleon's artillery strategies. Alpha Group employing Zhukov's pincer movements. How can they coordinate such disparate attack patterns? Demands the hegemony high command as reports of simultaneous losses flood in. They have no frame of reference for a species whose military history includes everything from Hannibal's pincer movements to blitzkrieg tactics to guerrilla warfare, all developed independently across thousands of years of conflict with themselves. Back on Earth, United Command monitors the operation's progress. Phase 1 complete, reports General Singh. Forward base Dominion captured with minimal casualties. We've secured their navigational data. Admiral Kagawa studies the newly acquired star charts with growing excitement. Just as we suspected. The hegemony has been systematically conquering less advanced worlds for millennia. And look here. She points to a cluster of systems marked in a distinct color pattern. These must be the subjugated species they maintain as vassal states. Send the decrypted communications package to all Earth vessels, she orders. It's time for Phase 2. Operation Liberation. As the data transmits to the fleet, Captain Goldstein reviews the new intelligence with her crew. This changes everything, she tells them. We're not just defending Earth anymore. We're potentially freeing dozens of enslaved civilizations. Her communications officer raises his hand, expression troubled. Ma'am, shouldn't we wait for reinforcements? We're still outnumbered. Goldstein's eyes gleam with determination. That's what the hegemony would expect. But humanity doesn't play by their rules. Sometimes the best defense is a bold offense, especially when your enemy believes you're stronger than you actually are. Across space, Earth vessels begin jumping to new coordinates, each targeting a hegemony-controlled world housing a subjugated species. The counteroffensive had evolved into something more, a liberation campaign that would reshape the galaxy. Ambassador Lydia Okonkwo feels distinctly underdressed in her formal diplomatic uniform as she steps into the alien council chamber aboard the massive vessel that appeared at the edge of captured hegemony space. The beings before her represent a dozen different species, some vaguely humanoid, others utterly alien in form. They call themselves the Coalition of Free Worlds. I'm getting strong Rebel Alliance vibes, whispers her aide, a young diplomat from Brazil. Okonkwo suppresses a smile, maintaining her professional demeanor. We have observed your conflict with the hegemony with great interest, says a translucent, jellyfish-like creature floating in a containment field. Its words translate through the neural interface Earth scientists adapted from captured hegemony technology. In 3,000 cycles, no species has ever repelled their initial attack, let alone launched a successful counteroffensive. A holographic display activates, showing hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Red markers pulse ominously across the map. These civilizations all fell to the hegemony, explains a being resembling a crystalline praying mantis. Most had centuries of warning as the conquest fleet approached their systems. All were subjugated within days. The display shifts to show footage of various species being conquered, some technologically advanced, others barely industrial. In each case, the hegemony employed the same methodical approach, a small expeditionary force followed by overwhelming firepower when resistance proved inadequate. Ambassador Okonkwo studies the alien diplomats carefully. And why didn't you help them? An uncomfortable silence fills the chamber before the crystalline entity responds. We lack the martial capability. Our coalition exists in secret, in the shadows between hegemony worlds. We are scientists, philosophers, diplomats, adds a furry, six-limbed creature. The hegemony permits our continued existence because we pose no threat. We offer technical services they value, while secretly maintaining contact between remnant-free populations. We offer you alliance. The jellyfish creature continues, tendrils pulsing with bioluminescence. Your military prowess combined with our intelligence network wooled. I have a counter-proposal. Okonkwo interrupts, activating her own presentation. The display shifts to show Earth military vessels positioned protectively around vulnerable alien worlds. A mutual defense pact. We commit human forces to protecting worlds that cannot defend themselves, while your coalition provides technological and intelligence support. The chamber erupts in astonished murmurs. A reptilian diplomat leans forward. You would expend your resources and risk your people to protect strangers. It's what humans do, Okonkwo replies simply. We protect our own. And we decide who qualifies as our own. She gestures to the holographic display. Your intelligence gathering is impressive, but you've missed critical data. The hegemony's strength isn't their technology or numbers. It's fear. They've convinced the galaxy that resistance is futile. Okonkwo projects new images. Earth ships successfully liberating the hegemony-controlled world, the local population, spindly beings with 4 arms, celebrating their freedom. This was Colony World Epsilon 9 yesterday. The hegemony fled rather than face our forces. Within hours, we established contact with the indigenous population, a species called the Kethar, enslaved for 900 years. The coalition representatives stare in amazement. How did you communicate with them so quickly? Asks the jellyfish being. We didn't need to, Okonkwo responds. They'd been monitoring hegemony communications for centuries, waiting for an opportunity. They already knew who we were from intercepted battle footage. They'd been maintaining secret resistance cells for generations. Understanding dawns in the aliens' expressions. You're suggesting that the hegemony's empire is a house of cards, Okonkwo confirms. Their subjugated worlds aren't loyal. They're waiting for someone to lead them in revolt. We're offering to be that someone. In that moment, as the coalition representatives realize they're witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history, none of them notice the tiny cloaked hegemony probe recording everything from the chamber's shadowy corner. Hours later, when the Supreme Hegemony Council views this footage, their reaction is one of genuine dread. They're not just warriors. The Arch-Commander whispers. They're crusaders. Back in the coalition chamber, Okonkwo concludes her proposal. The nightmare the hegemony feared is already unfolding. But it's not Earth they should fear. It's the 100 worlds they've oppressed, now finding their courage through our example. The massive Hegemony War Council chamber falls silent as Supreme Warlord Kiz Thul studies the intelligence reports. 3 full lunar cycles spent marshaling the Empire's main battle fleet, over 2,000 capital ships, for what should be a simple punitive action against one upstart world. These modifications are impossible, he finally says, mandibles clicking in agitation as he examines images of captured human vessels. They've integrated our plasma containment technology with their own ballistic weapon systems to create something new, something our shields aren't designed to stop. A holographic display shows a human cruiser firing what appears to be a conventional projectile, until it passes through a hegemony shield and suddenly transforms into a plasma eruption inside the barrier. The target ship disintegrates instantly. The humans call it innovation, his science advisor explains nervously. They've not only adapted our technology, they've improved it. What's most concerning is the time frame. Our models suggested such integration would take them decades. They accomplished it in weeks. Unprecedented, mutters Kiz Thul, compound eyes narrowing. And these alliance reports. The intelligence officer steps forward, visibly uncomfortable. Confirmed, Exalted One. The humans have established formal defense pacts with 17 formerly subjugated species. Their vessels now protect worlds we've controlled for centuries. Most troubling of all, adds the psychological warfare specialist, is the effect on planetary populations. The humans broadcast messages in local languages. Freedom is possible. Earth stands with you. Resistance movements have emerged on 32 worlds simultaneously. Elsewhere, in a sprawling factory complex repurposed from electric vehicle production, Dr. Amara Osai supervises as the first hybrid Earth hegemony drive cores come off the assembly line. Beautiful, isn't it? She says to her colleague. Their engineers spent centuries refining this technology. We redesigned it in a month because we weren't constrained by their traditions. Around her, the factory hums with activity. Workers who just weeks ago were building civilian transportation now constructing weapons of war with remarkable efficiency. Similar scenes play out across Earth as the planet's manufacturing base pivots to military production with unprecedented speed. The adaptability is extraordinary, observes Dr. Yamamoto, watching as AI systems simulate thousands of potential improvements to alien technology. Where the hegemony spent generations perfecting single designs, we're rapidly iterating dozens of versions simultaneously. In orbit above a newly liberated world, Admiral Kagawa oversees the installation of Earth-designed defense platforms. The local population, tall, willowy beings with 4 arms, work alongside human engineers, quickly learning to operate the hybrid technology. Your people adapt quickly, she remarks to the alien resistance leader. We've had centuries to study our oppressors, he replies, but never the means to fight back, until you showed us it was possible. This scene repeats across the frontier of hegemony space, human forces bringing not just military support, but technological knowledge, sharing innovations freely with species long kept deliberately dependent on their conquerors. When the massive hegemony battle fleet finally arrives at the edge of what was once their territory, Admiral Zexthal expects to find a human defense force preparing for a glorious but doomed last stand. Instead, his sensors detect something that makes his blood run cold, not just Earth ships, but vessels from a dozen formerly subjugated species, all modified with human-inspired technology. On his command view screen, the human Admiral Helena Kagawa appears, flanked by representatives of these other species. While you were building your fleet, we were building alliances, she says calmly. Your conquered world saw what one primitive species could do. Imagine what 13 unified species can accomplish. As the transmission ends, the hegemony fleet detects massive energy signatures as jump points form around them. The newly liberated worlds have committed their ships to humanity's cause. Surrounded and outmaneuvered, the mighty hegemony fleet faces what its military doctrine had never contemplated, fighting a multi-species resistance that moves with the unpredictability and innovative ferocity of humans. The nightmare spreads, whispers Zexthal as he gives the unprecedented order to retreat. They're infecting the galaxy with their chaos. He doesn't realize that what he perceives as chaos is actually humanity's ultimate weapon. The ability to inspire hope in those who had forgotten its meaning. The Earth vessel Reconciliation drifts in neutral space, its conference room transformed into an unprecedented gathering. Supreme Warlord Kizful, flanked by his remaining generals, enters with regal bearing, despite representing a defeated power. Across the gleaming table wait not just human diplomats, but representatives from 23 formerly subjugated species. The warlord's compound eyes scan the assembly, noting the absence of expected humiliation or gloating. Instead, the atmosphere is one of solemn formality. You could have destroyed us completely, Kizful says after the formal introductions. Your coalition fleet had tactical superiority at the Battle of Antares. Why didn't you press your advantage? Secretary General Maya Patel raises an eyebrow. Because annihilation was never our objective. That's where you fundamentally misunderstood us from the beginning. The negotiations that follow stun the hegemony delegation. Humans propose not punitive measures but a complete restructuring of galactic governance, one based on autonomy, mutual defense, and what they call self-determination. Most shocking of all, they offer the hegemony itself a place in this new order, albeit with dramatically reduced territory. This makes no strategic sense, whispers a hegemony advisor. They hold all military advantage. Why wouldn't they simply take everything? Admiral Helena Kagawa overhears and approaches the alien delegation during a recess. "Let me show you something," she says, activating a historical display. Images flash by. Human wars, atrocities, genocides, spanning centuries of bloody conflict. "This is our history," she explains softly. "We spent millennia fighting ourselves before we learned a better way. We built weapons that could destroy our entire planet 7 times over before we realized deterrence without compassion leads only to eventual destruction." Understanding dawns in the alien's compound eyes. "Your combat prowess was forged through our darkest moments," Kagawa confirms. "The very conflicts that nearly destroyed us created the adaptive thinking, technological innovation, and psychological resilience that let us defeat your forces. We don't fight because we love war. We fight because we've seen its worst consequences." In a private chamber, Kizthul consults with his advisors. Their proposal is unprecedented in galactic history. No conquering power has ever offered terms this merciful. "It may be a deception," suggests his security chief. "A trap." The aged science advisor shakes his head. "I've studied their transmissions extensively. This behavior aligns with a peculiar human concept they call redemption, the belief that even enemies can become allies if given the opportunity to change." Days later, as representatives from across the galaxy sign the Treaty of Soul, establishing the interstellar cooperative of sovereign worlds, a hegemony observer makes a final observation to his human counterpart. "The nightmare we feared when attacking Earth has indeed come true," he says, watching as former slave species mingle freely with humans and even reformed hegemony representatives. "But not as we imagined. We feared your weapons would conquer us. Instead, it was your ideas that proved most devastating to our empire." Back on Earth, civilians finally learned the full truth about humanity's secret preparations, the unified defense that had been hidden behind a facade of division, and the new galactic community their species has helped create. In schools, children study not just Earth history, but the cultures of dozens of alien civilizations. In laboratories, scientists from multiple worlds collaborate on technologies that benefit all species. As the ceremony concludes, Ambassador Lydia Okonkwo addresses the assembled delegates. "Today marks the beginning of something unprecedented, a galactic community where strength exists not to dominate, but to protect. The combat armada that defended Earth now extends its shield to all worlds who choose freedom and cooperation." She gestures to the vast view screen showing countless worlds joining the new alliance. "We come from different stars, evolved on different worlds, but share common aspirations: peace, dignity, and self-determination. What began as an attempted conquest has become the foundation for something greater than any single species could achieve alone." Across the galaxy, billions of beings watch this broadcast, many experiencing their first day of freedom in generations. The nightmare that began with an attack on Earth has transformed into something no strategic algorithm could have predicted. A dream of liberty spreading across the stars, backed by humanity's unexpected strength and even more surprising compassion. In the hegemony's former central command, now repurposed as a galactic library, the words inscribed above the entrance summarize the lesson learned by every species involved.